Don't look away, America. This story is about you. A recent study by AARP reported that a third of the United States population is older than 50. A fact many Americans may be shocked to learn given so many of the prevailing images in our country's media, advertising, and TV shows feature images of younger Americans like millennials, a supermajority with no buying power beset by student debt and stagnant wages. To understand why ageism has become acceptable in American society, we must return to yesteryear, the Bobby Soxer, and the pent-up demand for consumer goods that resulted following World War II, when a market researcher named Mark Abrams identified a new and distinct age group ripe for exploitation called teenagers. After World War II, jobs were plentiful, more Americans began attending college, and the middle class was growing as marketers began chasing consumers with disposable income to spend.
So hardly realizing it, they come into their purchasing stage and are off on a wild, non-stop ride. It's a happy-go-spending world, reflected in the windows of the suburban shopping centers where they go to buy.
Teenagers, a word coined by advertisers, came to be known as baby boomers or rebel without a cause, because unlike previous generations, they were given a lot of stuff that their parents and grandparents, the silents, worked really hard to acquire. This new consumerism, however, gave rise to exorbitant incomes, more leisure time, and a selfishness born of no sacrifice known as Generation Me, Me, and More Me. However, the Me generation's lack of raison d'etre gave rise to a narcissism and navel-gazing, which is the antithesis of wisdom, insight, and reflection that comes with, wait for it, age. Executives' fear and self-loathing about eventual displacement in the Mad Men Eat or Be Eaten dystopian world of consumer products and peak television programming bled into the larger culture where pernicious stereotypes of mature employees being technologically challenged and unable to adapt to the new workplace spread like avocado toast.
Not one stereotype about older workers holds up under scrutiny. Companies aren't adaptable and creative because their employees are young. They're adaptable and creative despite it.
Turns out, the new workplace is more like the old workplace than we think, run by managers and executives who are themselves, well, old, because as it all turns out, we're aging in this moment together. Americans are healthier and living longer than previous generations, with as many of us wanting to work as those of us who have to work, which means our future workforce will be more intergenerational. It also means we have a lot of productive output going to waste if people who want to work can't because employers refuse to hire experienced, qualified people who happen to be their peers. Turns out that incessant mantra by employers that they are unable to find workers because of a supposed skills gap is a lie. Earlier this year, at the American Economics Association's annual conference, 3 economists delivered a paper debunking the claims. What really happened is, as the rate of unemployment fell, labor participation rose, and employers made job descriptions more stringent. When employers say they can't find qualified people, particularly workers for middle-income jobs such as software engineers, college professors, and journalists, they're BSing the public. What they're really saying is, we don't want to hire qualified, experienced, educated Americans who, through no fault of their own, find themselves unemployed, underemployed, or laid off because business magnate and adventure capitalist Scrooge McDuck is more interested in lining the pockets of his investors than rewarding a productive workforce that's helped build profit and wealth for his company. Just 4 years ago, which seems like millennia, A Harris poll reported 65% of baby boomers and Gen X considered their problem-solving abilities to be at the pinnacle of performance, while only 5% of millennials agreed, which is another way of saying, look, we actually work. Turning 50 shouldn't be a death sentence, and mature workers, including Gen X, who've been tossed aside like Cinderella's Labatans, Drizella, and Anastasia, aren't commodities. They don't depreciate with age. Also, ideation and innovation are not age-restricted currencies. Employers who allow their own prejudice to cloud their judgment are setting themselves up for a future in which they are targeting themselves.